A normal tank tries very hard not to hit a mine. This one was built to make them explode. At the front of the Sherman Crab was a steel drum with heavy chains hanging from it. When the drum spun, those chains hammered the ground hard enough to trigger buried mines before the tank's tracks reached them. On a test range, that sounds clever. On a battlefield, it sounds slightly insane. Because when the Crab was doing its job properly, anti-tank mines were exploding only a short distance in front of the crew. And in June 1944, those crews were preparing to drive onto beaches where stopping in the wrong place could leave tanks, trucks, and infantry piling up behind them under German fire. So the question was not whether the Crab could make mines explode. It clearly could. The question was how many explosions it could take and still keep moving. Under all the machinery on the front, the Crab was still a Sherman tank. Ahead of the hull sat a powered rotating drum. Long chains hung from it, each ending in a heavy steel weight. As the tank moved forward, the drum spun. The chains hit the ground first. If there was a pressure mine underneath, one of them was supposed to reach it before the tank's tracks did. The mine went off. Then the Crab moved into the ground behind it. Simple enough in principle. But nobody builds something like this unless the alternative is worse. And minefields were very good at making the alternative worse. A minefield does not have to destroy an entire armored column. It only has to stop it. One tank loses a track. The vehicles behind it slow down. Infantry lose the protection of moving armor. Engineers now have to clear a route or find another one. Traffic starts to pile up. And it is piling up exactly where the defender wanted it to. One mine may damage one vehicle. The obstacle can hold up many more. That was the problem the Crab was really attacking. Engineers could clear mines by hand. They had detectors, probes, and explosives, and they knew how to use them. Doing that during an assault was another matter. It took time, and every minute spent sitting in front of a defended position gave the defenders another minute to fire. The British had already seen the larger problem. At Dieppe in 1942, tanks reached a defended coast and found themselves fighting not only German troops, but obstacles, blocked exits, and terrain that made movement difficult. Getting armor ashore was not enough. It had to keep moving once it arrived. That lesson helped shape what came next. Major General Percy Hobart's 79th Armoured Division became the home of a collection of specialist vehicles built for specific battlefield problems. Some could cross water. Some carried bridges. Some attacked concrete positions. And some were built to get through mines. The flail itself was not new. British forces had already used the idea in North Africa. The Matilda Scorpion worked on the same basic principle. Put a rotating drum in front of a tank, hang chains from it, and beat the ground hard enough to set buried mines off before the tank reached them. It was rough. It was noisy. But the idea worked well enough to keep developing. For the invasion of Europe, the system was adapted to the Sherman. That became the Crab. The Sherman was a useful platform. It was already widely used and well understood. It had enough power to carry the extra machinery, and the conversion still allowed the tank to keep its 75mm gun. That gave the Crab an important advantage. When the flail was not needed, there was still a fighting tank underneath it. But first, the flail had to survive its own job. What happened when one of those chains found a real anti-tank mine? The explosion happened ahead of the tracks and ahead of the hull. The chains reached the mine first. The mine went off beneath the flail. Then the tank moved forward. The blast was still violent. The Crab was not mine-proof. Not even close. The idea was to make the first explosion happen farther forward, against equipment that reached the mine before the tracks and hull did. And that equipment took a beating. British tests showed it clearly. A mine could explode beneath the chains, and the flail might keep turning. But chains could break. Parts of the drum and its supports could be damaged. The whole system wore hard. Keeping it running meant maintenance. A lot of it. So the real question was simple. Could the flail take enough punishment to keep opening the lane? One wartime account describes a Crab dealing with roughly 40 mines, without the tank itself being knocked out. Afterward, the flail chains needed replacing. That example says more about the machine than a long list of specifications. The tank got through. The equipment hanging in front of it did not get through untouched. But there was another problem. Not every mine behaved the same way. A mine buried deeper than expected might survive the flail. Long grass could interfere with the chains. Wooden-cased mines could behave differently from metal ones. The same crab could work cleanly on one patch of ground and have more trouble on the next. So the machine did not erase minefields. It could not guarantee that every mine in front of it was gone. And that sounds like a serious weakness until you look at what the crew was actually being asked to do. They were not trying to make the whole battlefield safe. They were trying to open one usable route through it. The crab was a breaching vehicle. Its job was movement. If it could create a lane wide enough for the force behind it to keep going, it had done something much more useful than simply destroying a few mines. And on June 6, 1944, that idea had to work outside a test field. Crabs went ashore in Normandy with units of the 79th Armoured Division. Until then, the machines had been developed, tested, and trained with. Now they had to work during an invasion. The beaches were already difficult places to move through. Vehicles were coming ashore behind one another. Men and equipment had to reach the exits. German fire was still coming in. On some beaches, congestion became a serious problem as the tide rose and usable space narrowed. A stopped vehicle could quickly become somebody else's obstacle. The crab could not solve all of that. It was never meant to. But minefields were one part of the problem it had been built to reduce. And doing that meant going forward while the ground was still dangerous. On a test field, a broken chain meant somebody repaired it. On a beach under fire, a stopped crab could block the lane it had been sent to open. The minefield was only one danger. German anti-tank guns could still hit the tank. Artillery could still hit it. A mechanical failure could stop it. Soft ground, obstacles, or damaged exits could stop it. And if the crab went down in the wrong place, everyone behind it had a new problem. Some of them did go down. Photographs from Normandy show crabs knocked out or burning. One was photographed on fire on Sword Beach on D-Day. Others needed repair soon after landing. So this was never a machine that turned a minefield into safe ground. It gave an assault force a better chance of crossing one while the battle was still happening. That is the important distinction. The crab did not need to defeat every mine. It needed to breach the obstacle. Once a usable lane existed, the tanks and vehicles behind it had somewhere to go. And D-Day was not the end of its use. Sherman Crabs continued operating during the fighting in Normandy, including later operations such as Goodwood. The machine had proved useful enough to keep moving inland with the army. And once the flail was no longer needed, the Crab still had its 75mm gun. It was still a Sherman. That made the conversion more useful than it first appeared. The strange part was attached to the front. The fighting vehicle underneath was still there. And now the whole design starts to make sense. For almost any other tank, a mine exploding directly ahead is a sign that something has gone badly wrong. For a crab, that same explosion could mean the machine had just done exactly what it was built to do. The chain found the mine first. The mine was gone. The tank could move forward. The next mine might be deeper. A chain might break. The crew was still exposed to everything else on the battlefield. Nothing about the crab made a minefield safe. What it did was give the crew a way to force part of that hidden danger to appear before the tank reached it. A normal tank entered a minefield, hoping not to find a mine. The crab entered expecting to find them. That was the point. Because in a minefield, an explosion you cause on purpose is better than the one you never see coming. The Sherman Crab was not built to win a battle by itself. It was built to keep the battle moving. If you like military stories where a strange design only starts to make sense, once you understand the problem it was built to solve, subscribe. That is what this channel is about. And the crab was only one of Britain's strange answers to problems ordinary tanks could not solve.